In this video, we're going to make a start installing some of the accessories onto the motor. We've also got the studs, the head gasket, and of course the cylinder head to install as well. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the water pump. That's going to be the first thing to install. So I just need to give this bit a bit of a wipe down, clean that down, make sure there's no grit on there, and I will use some parts cleaner too, just to spray through here to make sure there's no debris that shouldn't be there. This particular water pump has the bypass on there, so I will be fitting the bypass hose. I do have what is meant to be a Kevlar bypass hose, so it looks like that. I'm going to give this one a go and see how that fits. I also do have a couple of these, the concertina type, which will compress, so that can be, it's designed like that so it can be replaced without having to remove the cylinder head. So I'll save that as a backup, and then go with the Kevlar hose and just see how that turns out. So I'll just need to prepare the surfaces, find the gasket. Oh, here's the gasket here. I'm going to use the same Permatex on that gasket just to make sure things don't leak. Alright, so I've got a couple of different gaskets. This one is the one that came with the kit with all the gaskets to rebuild and reassemble the engine. That one's a bit thinner compared to this one. This is the one that actually came with the water pump. It's a lot thicker. So I'm going to give that one a go, and I'm just going to apply some Permatex on that before it gets inserted onto there. So Permatex goes on both sides. Alright, so with this water pump I have done a test fit just to make sure that the impeller doesn't rub against the actual the cylinders or any parts inside the engine there. That's all been cleaned up. I've cleaned it with parts cleaner just to make sure there's no debris in there from when it's been manufactured. Alright, so that is ready to install. The reason why I'm putting the water pump first, because you need this part for the bypass hose ready for when the head goes on. Okay, so let's just line that up. There's a couple of studs to make things go in a bit easier. Alright, so there's a few different size bolts. There are two longer bolts. They obviously go on this side here. And under there. You just want to make sure everything fits in there. Just do them up hand tight just to make sure everything is in the right spot. And then the two shorter bolts obviously go on this side here. Okay, so the torque setting I'm using on this is 22 Newton meters. All right, the next thing I want to do is just test fit the pulley. Of course, this needs to actually have the fan on as well. I just want to see how things fit because it may need a spacer. I'm not too sure, but I'll just put a couple of bolts in there just to see how things fit. Because I do have a variety of different spacers for these. All right, that seems to line up nicely with that bottom pulley, but I can't be certain until the alternator's put on, but for now that seems okay. So that's it for the water pump. We just want to sort out this bypass, and I'll just clean up this bit of hose. I may need to make adjustments to the height of that. I'm just not too sure because the height, compared to the concertina one, it's a lot longer. So it's going to probably need some modifications, but we can sort that out once we do a test fit. I can just place the head on there and I'll get some sort of idea. But that's how that one will go. Okay, so I did a test fit with the cylinder head on. Just keep in mind there's the thickness of the gasket needs to be taken into consideration, but there was still heaps of room, so the length was fine. All right, so we just need to work out which of these clips are going to be the best one for it. And of course, when you install these, you want to make sure that you're going to easily be able to access them, considering the head will be sitting over here. So you need to be able to get a screwdriver or even a small spanner onto those actual bolt heads. Okay, so the next item to install is the fuel pump. I've just got this test fitted at the moment. One thing you need to be sure of, and I'll take it out in a minute so you can see what it is, because this is an aftermarket part, non-genuine. One issue is that the actual part that presses onto the camshaft and moves in and out, if it's not aligned correctly, obviously the fuel pump won't work. And then the way to test it, what I did, I have rotated the engine a complete cycle, and then if you look down through here you can actually see the camshaft, and there's cam lube on the camshaft, and you can sort of see a pattern where the actual foot is rubbing against the camshaft for the fuel pump. So I can sort of see clearly that it's nice and centrally aligned. One issue is when you're doing up the bolts, make sure the whole unit stays steady. So what I need to do, I'll undo it, put some Permatex on those gaskets, and then tighten it up. Okay, so I've got it's a messy job, but anyway, Permatex installed on these gaskets. So it needs 2 gaskets. The reason why, it's because it uses this spacer block, and if you do not use this spacer block, I think the pump may actually not work at all because of the position of the arm, but I believe also that it will produce too much fuel pressure. But I actually just think it won't work. It won't position itself and sit in the right spot. Right, so 2 gaskets, one each side of that, and now we are ready to put the pump back on. So it's important that this sits in dead straight, otherwise you're going to have issues where it's not aligned to the cam shaft properly. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is just apply a bit more assembly lubricant to the camshaft, just so I can do another test and make sure that it's sitting in the right position. Alright, so that's alright, and then I'll rotate the crankshaft and then just check to make sure it is positioned okay. Alright, I'll sort of take you in just so you can sort of see what I mean. This little spot here between the cam followers, just get the light in the right spot. Okay, so if you look down in there, that's the actual lobe for the fuel pump, and you can sort of see on there that, or maybe you can't see too clearly, but the actual on the actual cam lobe, it's where the assembly lube has been pushed to each side. It's nice and even, so it is sitting squarely in there. And this is the box for it. That's actually what it looks like. That's the brand PN, and there's some part numbers on there too. Okay, so now we are going to set up the oil filter attachments. So the first thing I need to do is just put this gasket on. Again, I've used Permatex on that. And of course I've done a test fit first to make sure things go where they need to. Now this actual unit up here with the banjo bolt, I think that's a better option. On my Mini I actually have the other fitting where it sort of just screws straight in. This option is better because before the engine gets started up, we need to add some oil down that hole to fill up the oil pump to prime it. And having the banjo bolt on there makes it a bit easier. So the banjo bolt actually requires 2 copper washers, and one goes onto there. The other one needs to slide between the pipe and the block, and then that will screw straight in. Okay, they're both tightened up now. Loosen that one, and then it makes it easy to get this on. That will need to be taken off to put oil in here to prime it before the engine is started. But that's it for that piece there. I might actually screw the oil filter on there now. Alright, now we're going to make a start installing the studs for the head. You'll probably notice that I ended up going with this bypass hose because I couldn't find a set of clamps that would fit the other one properly, and I'm thinking that because it's a thicker hose, if you're not going to be able to replace it in situ, where this type of concertina one you can. So I'm just going to go with that one. I've got a new pack of studs to install on here, so I'll get them put in first. So with the studs, there are 2 different lengths here. The shorter ones, the kit comes with 5 of those, and they will go into the front of the block, and then it comes with 4 longer studs, and then they go into the rear. The reason why the rear ones are a bit longer, because you need to, or the actual rocker assembly will fit over those. Okay, so let's see how the head gasket fits on there. This is the one that's come in the kit to replace the head. Okay, so let's install this one and just see how we go. Okay, so let's get the cylinder head on there. I just need to make sure that bypass clamp, that should be loose enough to get it on there, but that'll be the first thing I'll just need to check. Alright, I'll just take out these rocker studs because I've got replacements, new ones of those. Alright, so you'll notice that I've already installed the cam followers. I'll just show you what they are like. A cylinder like this, the end of the push rod goes in it. This part here is what touches onto the cam shaft. So each of these has a separate lobe and they will move up and down, and that's what pushes the push rod up in turn. Now with these push rods, these are all being checked to make sure they're all completely straight, and all I do is just roll it onto a, use like a plank, roll it along, watch the ends, check the ends to make sure that they're not doing a loopy pattern like that. And then if they are, replace them. But these ones, I went through quite a few sets just to find a good amount that were fine. So that'll get dropped in there like that, and then it will just sit into the bottom of that cam follower. Okay, so now we're ready to install the rocker assembly. Alright, don't forget to put that piece, that's just a locking tab. There's a grub screw that sits in there to lock the assembly. Alright, so these will be adjusted once the head has been bolted down, but these are on the maximum distance there, clearance distance, so that obviously gets screwed in a lot more because it will be sitting like that. That'll get screwed down, and then the same thing happens for each of them. But next that needs to happen is we just need to put the washers and nuts onto these 4 studs. Okay, so the head's all torqued down now. I just need to make sure these, the bypass, they're nice and tightened up now. Okay, so I've got all the valve tappets all adjusted, and I'm working on these tappet covers now. So there's a couple of different types. The ones which are concaved in, they're meant to use the rubber gasket like this. If it's the older style where it's concaved outwards, it uses a cork gasket. So we just need to get these fitted onto there, and then they need to be attached to the engine block. The way it works, you have a bolt, this little end cap here, and then of course there's a rubber grommet which goes on as well. That just slides all the way down, or wind it on just to get it down there. So what I've done here is, I don't know whether the rubber is just a bit old and it's not as flexible, but it wouldn't stay on there properly. So what I used is a bit of super glue, not heaps, just a few dots around, just to make the rubber seal sit in the correct spot, so I can bolt the cover to the block. Okay, so the next piece of the puzzle is the rocker cover. When I fitted gaskets before, particularly on my Mini, I needed to super glue that to the inside of the rocker cover, but this particular type of cover, it seems like it's going to be able to hold the gasket in the right spot. We'll just see how we go, whether or not we do need to super glue it, but of course this will have to come off again anyway once we run the engine in, adjust all the tappets again. Because that seems to sit on there okay. Whether or not it's going to leak, I don't know. Okay, so I've got some rocker cover bolts to go on. I've replaced, these are all like new rubbers in there for them. Alright, there's still a few things to undo on this motor. The heater bypass valve, I just need to get some gaskets for that. I've got some spark plugs. These are not the correct ones. I believe these are from Cooper S, but I'm just going to put these in here for now. It's just to prevent anything from falling into the piston chamber. Okay, so this is going to conclude the video for the time being. There's still a few little bits and pieces that still need to be sorted out on this. The temperature sender, I need to put that into hot water with the gauge I'm going to use and just see how well that actually works. And obviously it needs a thermostat, get all the housing, the radiator and all that sort of sorted out. And of course I still need to sort out the exhaust manifold intake and also the carburetor. That still needs to be rebuilt. So I'll leave it there, and thanks for watching my videos.